Well, yeah, he didn't. He needs attention. He doesn't feel he's had attention. So he wants people to see his pain. He wants somebody to say, I see that you are suffering, my son. Not, you're not working, you're 26. That he knows that already. He doesn't need to be told that. He needs to be told, I see you. I see you for who you are. I see your potential. I see your pain. I see what you're carrying. That's what he needs to be heard and seen. That's what he needs. And if you see, when he hears that, what he did, he heard that in the therapy room, and he receives that motivation is what will get him up. Welcome to episode 29, Family Intervention. I wanted to review a show that I watch, one of their segments on the episode called Love and Marriage DC, produced by Carlos King. And I think it's on episode 6, I believe, or episode 5 that I am reviewing. Because it was a family intervention, and I thought it was really interesting, and there's so much to learn from. Yeah, I think it's episode 4 or 5. The family that I'm looking at is a Tyler family. It takes an emotional time. So those that are listening, obviously, you won't be able to see, but by all means, please go on to the YouTube to be able to watch it so you can catch the visual of this. So I think with Owen, you've got to be very careful how much you play. So I can only do my best. But to set the context is that the Tyler family is one of the families in the reality TV show. The married couple, they've been married for a very long time. Or they've been together for a long time and married a long time. They've got 3 children. The first daughter, I believe, is not the biological daughter of Jamie. The father's name is Jamie. But he's been the father in her life since she was a child, since she was a baby. Then they've got 2 biological children together. One's called Little Jamie, so he's the second oldest, the middle child. And they've got another child, I can't remember the name of the other child, who is legally blind. So Little Jamie, unfortunately, has gotten into criminal activity, has gotten into quite a lot of trouble, and even of recently, only like 6 months to a year ago, in their filming timeline, was nearly about to go to prison for a crime he committed. He didn't have to pay that time, but he does have some sort of consequence. So because of the criminal records on his license, on his records, it probably makes it quite hard for him to get a job. I don't know how wealthy they are, the family, the Tylers are, but they're probably definitely much wealthier than they grew up. So they've given their children a more luxurious lifestyle than they themselves experienced. So the picture that we have of Jamie, or Little Jamie, shall I say, is one of being entitled, a young man who is entitled. But I think there is a deeper picture out here. And the picture that we get of Jamie, the father, is that he's just angry, old school African-American dad who has tough love, who supposedly may have spoilt his kids and then now is XYZ. It doesn't understand and can't connect with his son. And again, I think it is a one-dimensional picture we're given. I will not judge them because I don't know them. I can only judge by what I see. But as a therapist, I understand the nuances and the intricacies that occur with children. I'm not a parent myself, but I'm a child. And I work with a lot of parents and a lot of children. And the dynamics that occurs between parent and child is a very delicate and sensitive one. And it isn't always directly that I do this and causes B. It's complex. So Jamie, who is a police officer, is interesting. This is the second season, right? And in the first season, it didn't really focus on his job. It came across that Jamie didn't have a professional job. He was a TikTok star with his wife, and they had businesses. And then in the second season, it's revealed that he's a retired detective police officer. Was it secret because that could have painted a negative picture of him immediately? You know, in the Black community, there's a lot of ambivalence towards police, both here and in America. So was it kind of to hold off from people judging him too harshly already? Because I just find that quite interesting. Why is it in the second season, once he's now more of an established character, people either like him or don't like him because of how he is, rather than people not liking him because they see the blue, you know, they see whatever they call it, the blue uniform. So maybe that was why, because that doesn't make sense why you would tell us now when the way in which he was perceived was, I didn't even know he had a professional job. I thought he was just an entrepreneur. So not that he can't be an entrepreneur and a professional, but that's not what he displayed. Now it's he's a retired professional, but they are, interestingly enough, we're not talking about their real estate. We're not talking about the club promoting that he does. So again, I'm now still a bit confused about what he does, or but we know what he did was he was a not only a police officer, he was a detective. To be a detective means that you solve crimes and cases, right? So he was an investigator, but of course we recognize that a lot of police officers, not all, can be quite, regimented, have a very harsh exterior, can be very binary in how they see it, like it's a black and white, it's good or bad, happy or sad. Everything is kind of binary in the sense of the way they respond. It's like they're either angry or not angry. There's nothing in the middle. And he might be he might have been a disciplinarian, because he says it himself that the way he grew up in the 80s, his father had to be disciplined, or he would have gone down the route that some black men unfortunately have gone down the route of at that time, but he went a different route. So in his mind, he's going to do exactly what his father did. Why? Because that's all that's all you see. It's difficult to be something different what you haven't seen. I think people need to recognize that you cannot be what you haven't seen before. Many people can't. If it hasn't been modeled to you, how do you operate in that? You will naturally respond from your default settings, and your default settings is how you were brought up. So I want to play a clip. It's a family intervention. So at the current situation is that Jamie and Little Jamie are at loggerheads, back and forth. Little Jamie applied for a job he didn't get because of his criminal record. Then when Jamie was like, okay, what we're going to do next? What's next? Little Jamie reacted and kind of sent messages that he's going to, harm himself, and he's feeling he's got poor mental health. He's just not feeling good with himself. And then Jamie's like, you're being selfish and ungrateful, like you're seeking attention. And they nearly even fought each other. They nearly even fought each other in the previous episode because the father was trying to speak to the son, and it just blew up. It got exacerbated and it got heated, and they were about to fight. So this intervention is from the older sister who told neither of them. So told Little Jamie that it was just them, and then the parents and the grandparent thought, oh, it's just us, and to happen to find out, oh, this is potentially an intervention. So the intervention was successful, though in the beginning it was very volatile, and you can see the intensity of everyone's emotions, especially Little Jamie. And I want to talk to young black men, especially, that this is such an amazing video to look at, because I think we need to see how mental health and mental ill health and mental health difficulties show up with in black people, but specifically in this case, young black men, right? But let me play. I'm talking a lot because I don't know what the rules are, but people that do review own, are very careful in what they show. So I know I probably can't show long clips. So that's partly the reason why.
God, thank you for taking accountability.
If I can do it, then he need to take accountability. Then he know he not where he should be at 26. That's all.
So the daughter was really happy that her father took accountability, because Jamie and how it appears, because obviously they know their relationship and what actually is happening, but from how it appears on TV, feels like he did everything right, and his son should be grateful. Why are you upset? Like, you've got everything on the plow. Why are you acting like this? I never got this. If I had what you had, man, this would have been different. You're being ungrateful. You're basically being lazy. You're a bum. I guess the message that Little Jamie feels is that his family sees him as a bum. His family sees him as a terrible case of, like, come on, like, you could do better. So you saw that bit, at age 26, what you're going to do. Now, I've watched some people that kind of somewhat agree with that sentiment, like he's just been entitled. But I think it's much deeper than that. And they're not therapists. I don't expect people to think like that, to see beyond the mask. Let me be very honest with you. Trauma manifests in manifold ways. Some people's trauma manifest in being very withdrawn, being very sullen, being very depleted. Some people's trauma manifests in rudeness and anger. Let's not lie. We prefer somebody who's withdrawn than someone who's rude. If somebody came to me, two people, similar backgrounds came to me, and one person was like, I just really need help, I just don't know what to do. I'll probably be more lean towards that person, the person that goes, help me then. Help me. They're both defended, they're both traumatized, and they're both acting out their trauma. But one's acting out their trauma is more pleasant and one isn't. That is the issue we have, why people cannot see a lot of Black people's pain, because sometimes our trauma is not the most palatable. Sometimes our trauma comes out in ways that is displeasing and is unpleasant. So little Jamie's trauma from the experiences that he had, because again, when we had trauma, the family, Jamie would be like, what trauma have I caused you though? What have I done to you? Right? I can't speak at that. They haven't told us events that occurred in the past. So I'm not going to make any speculation or conjectures on what happened in the past. But what we do know is that little Jamie is manifesting very likely depression. He's very likely depressed. He very much like he feels he has no purpose. He feels he's lost his way. And he doesn't know how to articulate that because it's difficult for him to be vulnerable, because when he is vulnerable, he gets shut down and told like, come on, just get on with it. So then but he can't get on with it. So it's a spiral, because he can't get on with it because he's stuck in a very dark space. Yeah. And then when he then maybe once in a while says that he's stuck in a bad place, he doesn't get heard, or he feels he doesn't get heard. He doesn't feel like he's listened to. So it reinforces, what's the point? Nobody cares. And he remains there, right? There's a lack of hope. He even mentioned it. He mentioned lack of hope. So I think it's important that we hear our children and we hear our siblings and we hear our friends. Don't hear what you think they are saying. Don't be quick to respond. Listen to understand. Even if you don't agree, you don't have to agree. Many people will not understand and probably feel, Jamie, shut up. Fair enough. But irrespective of that, God forbid he harmed himself, then you're going to be saying, oh crap, what could we have done? No, nothing. You didn't care about it in the first place. If you cared about it, you would have said, okay, I may not agree with how you feel about your situation, but I can agree with the fact you feel this way. That's what a therapist does. I hear all manner of things in therapy. Sometimes I'm sitting there thinking, bruh, what's this? What's going on? Right? But that's not what's important. What's important is that that person feels a certain way. I can be in a situation with two different people, two people that know each other. So it could be a couple, it could be family, brother, sister, mother, father. They talk about a scenario, and both of them feel like they're the victim. They both feel that they're the ones that have been wronged. So if I'm in therapy with only one of them, because sometimes you hear a story and you kind of think, no, you're the one that did the wrong, right? You're the one that did the issue, right? But in that, and obviously sometimes in that moment you can tell. It depends on the relationship, depends on what's needed in that moment. Maybe I will raise it to their awareness and say, I'm wondering if you're viewing this situation, in all ways. You see in every single side, because sometimes we can be very insular into our side, and it's very important that we take on different perspectives, because I think it helps us get a balanced perspective. So I think that little Jamie, to me, I see pain, I see lack of hope, I see lack of purpose, I see disappointment that he feels about himself. He probably feels very disgusted with himself, but doesn't know how to get over this disgustment. He probably even feels that he can't ever attain the position of his father. Now, he's a middle child, so who knows? The middle child syndrome is real. Who knows what that meant for him? Sometimes the middle child is the peacemaker. Sometimes the middle child is the black sheep, feels not connected. It's weird. The first child gets all the love, and because they're the oldest. Then the last child sometimes gets all the love because they're the baby. And because the brother has not mental health issues, sorry, physical disabilities, he definitely got a lot of attention. So it is very likely that maybe he didn't get the attention that he felt he wanted and needed when he was young, but he got attention, but he didn't feel like it was enough, in contrast to his siblings. And maybe the older sister didn't necessarily get more attention, but she got attention in a different way. A lot of older siblings sometimes feel needed. They get their attention and their validation through serving others and helping. You can kind of see that relationship where she's a really big sister to the brother. He values her opinion. Probably out of all of the family, probably feels the less judged by her and loved by her, like, obviously. So she probably took on not like a motherly role, but a motherly role. And that is a way that sometimes the older sibling gets their attention. And because she's she's also the daughter. So there are only two boys in the household. One's got a physical disability, and the last born, So the way a middle child reacts to kind of being replaced by another child, especially a child with more confounded needs, that means it has drawn more attention from the parents. It sounds like, that could be a factor in how he feels about himself. He just always feels not in place, doesn't like he belongs, right? The older sister is like the mother, the younger sibling's like a baby, and everyone forces love unto him. He's allowed to make mistakes because he's got a disability. Then I'm in the middle child, and I've even got my dad's name, and I can't materialize my father's greatness or my father's discipline or my father's resoluteness, whatever it is that he felt his father represented. Maybe he doesn't feel that he can live up to that. And sometimes parents don't adapt, then they're parenting to different children. So the way the way Jamie and Arena is to their first daughter, and then how they were to their last born would be different to how they were with Jamie. But sometimes parents don't adapt. We don't adapt to even our friends, right? But if you were able to adapt, then what may have happened is that you would have picked up quite quickly that maybe your middle son needs more attention in certain areas than you think he ought to, because he should just get on with it. Hasn't got a physical disability. These are all speculations. This is not me saying this is what occurred, because they haven't really given us childhood events to begin to create a timeline and an understanding of little Jamie's current situation. All we hear is that he's a bit ungrateful and entitled, right? And that could be that, and also could be that. Look, the reality is that there are some kids that are entitled. They get a silver spoon in their mouth, they fall off their weight, and they're vexed at their parents, thinking that, well, I shouldn't be like this. But it could be that, and plus many other things. Maybe because he grew from a wealthy family, he was picked on and didn't feel like he fitted into the black aesthetic, so he wanted to be like them and got into the wrong crowd. Or maybe people realizing that his dad is a detective and a police officer, he got it. So he couldn't tell his dad that, because little Jamie doesn't seem tough. Little Jamie seems like he would want to be tough guy, but he's not really tough, right? He seems like if he ever harmed somebody, he would be regretting it immediately after and crying over the person's body. That's how he seems. So what I'm taking it as, potentially maybe his father being a police officer was actually affecting him in school, and he wouldn't tell his parents, because, like I said in the podcast that I've been on, telling your parents that you're going through things can make it worse. What can they do? Sometimes they might heighten or exacerbate the situation. So I think that so many things has happened to all three of them, and maybe there were traumatic things that they're not going to talk about as a family because they don't want to. They don't need to. I totally get that. I respect that. So we don't have a complete picture, but what we hear is that he's entitled, he's this. But what I hear from little Jamie is a young man who wants to do better, but is fragmented. He's internally fragmented and hasn't got a strong inner self to propel him forward. And he hasn't got outside schemers, meaning that he hasn't got outside examples. Though he does, right? He does. There's people, but I think he's looking for also a tender fatherly love. His father probably isn't the most tenderest, hasn't been. I think Jamie is getting a bit more tender, but he's not tender. And I think you can see, because there was a clip in the therapy which I can't find. I'm not able to show you guys, because I really wanted to review the therapy, because it was a beautiful therapy session. Look, I am telling you, that therapy session was amazing. There was a bit that little Jamie said to the therapist, like, please remember your phone number. So it wasn't like, I say to a client, you can call me if you're ever feeling down. Okay, thank you. And you take them to the room outside of your therapy room to say goodbye. He even said outside the therapy room, remember the number, meaning that little Jamie wanted this number. He's like, I need you as a resource. I need you as a support system. When I heard that one line, I said, wow, little Jamie, he just needs, I don't want to say he's going to need a father, because he's already got a father. He just needs love in a certain way that he may not be receiving, and is not expected, because you think at 26 you wouldn't need that. And if he doesn't know how to articulate that he needs that love, so what he does, he shuts down, he withdraws, and he sends messages that are scary, but can make a man like Jamie, who feels like, I'm giving you everything that you need. And the way you're saying things, because when somebody tells you they want to harm themselves, people, you need to understand that as the person to receive that. I've never been on that receiving end, but if I heard a family member tell me that, there is a part of you that feels like, what have I done? How aren't enough to keep you alive, at least, if not me, more like, your children, your family, your friends. There is a part that makes you feel like a failure when you have a loved one who doesn't want to be here anymore, because you would hope that maybe in your mind, even though you're not like that, but one reason why you're happy is because of them. So when he sent that message, Jamie and Irena and family probably reacted all differently. They all reacted differently. Jamie felt, oh, he's, seeking attention. People got vexed at it. But again, I think people don't allow people to express themselves and then say, okay, what did you mean by that? So if he said that, so what do you mean by that? Because that might be his initial reaction, because it's hard to contend and to confront the fact that your child, who in your mind you're going to go before them, you're going to leave this earth before them, does not want to be on this earth anymore. So it is easier, for one for a better word, to say that they are creating attention, because you don't want to face that. Yeah, and the thing is, he may have meant that as well. I'm not denying that. I'm not trying to make him to act like he said something he didn't say. But what I am also saying, that we say things in the first instance, that's our natural reaction. Doesn't always mean that's our real reaction. That's our defenses. If we understood that, we might give grace to both of them, because I feel like there's not a lot of grace given to either of them. It's either you're on either side. I don't think it's about sides again. It's about two people in a family that love each other, especially a young boy who's trying to make his way and is struggling in this world. He doesn't know where he fits or will place in society, and he sees his parents and every other his siblings kind of seem that they've got it. They understand where they are, understand where they're going. They're ambitious. And he's not that right now. He wants to be, and that's the issue. The image that little Jamie has of himself, he's not fulfilling, and he feels that either everyone else does not even see the image of greatness, or if they do, they're so disappointed in that. So all he constantly has is what he isn't, rather than what he can become. So I think the only advice I would say in any situation of a family is in this, a very surface advice, because obviously I could go deeper if you were a client, would be reinforce what you see. People call me a gasser up. Like, I can gas you up because, like God sees you as the father of nations when your name was just father. God saw Abraham as the father of nations when Abraham was just a father with no child, but his name meant father. Then God called him Abraham, father of nations. God sees the end from the beginning. So when he calls you knowing what you will achieve at the end, meaning the culmination of your life, what you will produce. When he called Gideon, he saw him as a warrior, but Gideon at that time was a coward. So that's one thing I believe. I call forth what I see in my friends. The little part that God gives me, the little part you tell me that you want to do, I call that forth. Because if we don't call that forth, you're going to remain in who you think you currently are. Who you currently are is not your final destination. Who you currently are is a present state. You're meant to constantly evolve. Who little Jamie is not what he currently is now. All of this is about teaching him, and this is for him to understand. All of this is for you, little Jamie, to understand that your character is being built. All your life difficulties and circumstances have led you to this. You've made mistakes. You have made the mistakes. You've owned it up, right? You're fortunate you're not in prison. You got to make your life count so you can be an example to those that come after you. Let's see if I can play something else a little bit. So there's a point where he gets really upset.
I'm like the one.
No, it's not.
That's whatever. Like, I'm just that's why I be feeling how I feel.
Listen, it's not about you.
I'm about to. I just need some space right now.
I'm not harassing him right now. I'm just asking him a simple.
So when I watch that, I can see so many things, right? On the surface level, it looks like a very simple conversation of, look, we love you, we just want you to do better, we believe in you, come on, right? So there's a part of many people be like, why is little Jamie reacting like, oh my God, melodramatic, he's like, no, I don't want to do therapy, I'm not the only issue, leave me alone, right? But on a deeper psychological level, he felt dismissed, he felt ganged up on, he already feels vulnerable. He doesn't feel like he can articulate himself. He feels like the problem. He feels like the bad child, the black sheep. So even if you're saying amazing stuff to him, saying we love you, we want to help you, all he has is I'm terrible and I'm rubbish. It's crazy, right? How I can be saying my words and my lips can say I love you and you hear I hate you. But that is the power of our subconscious and our unconscious processes that drive us, right? So when he talks about, because I don't think I can play it, but when he talks about how he felt and what he felt, it's like a totally different conversation. Meaning that the conversation was happening, but what he believed and what he felt, right? The subliminal under what was being said was what he was receiving, what he felt he was receiving, what he was interpreting, his perception based on all the interactions he's had with his family. And he before it ended, because it ended well, but it nearly ended in, I am terrible, I am rubbish, I don't want to be there, you guys don't even want me to be here, let me just go and end, right? And then they all came together. Like there was a moment of just at the end where they came together and said, nearly all of them were in tears. We love you so much. And I think him seeing the reaction of his family and seeing that they loved him, and yes, you might think, oh, he wants attention. Well, yeah, he needs attention. He doesn't feel he's had attention. So he wants people to see his pain. He wants somebody to say, I see that you are suffering, my son. Not, you're not working, you're 26. That he knows that already. He doesn't need to be told that. He needs to be told, I see you. I see you for who you are. I see your potential. I see your pain. I see what you're carrying. That's what he needs to be heard and seen. That's what he needs. And if you see, when he hears that, and what he did, he heard that in the therapy room, and he receives that motivation is what will get him up. Now, it may not last long. That motivation might only last from the therapy room to the car. But that, if he gets more of that, then it will last from the therapy room to the car to the front door. More of that. The front door. It will last longer. So he needs a pouring into of affirmative action, positive reinforcement, love. And I'm telling you, if he's been poured into like that, he will pour out. I don't mean give out. I mean, he will flourish. Basically, he is a seed in a dead soil, and we need to make that soil a good soil. That's my thoughts. I would say more if I could play more bits of Own, but I don't want any copyright. I don't want this to be my first copyright and be like, crap, what do I do? So let me leave it there. For those that are listening, just write Tyler Family Intervention takes an emotional turn. Tyler Family Intervention takes an emotional turn. You can find it on YouTube and then watch that. And yeah, see what you thought and what your thoughts are, and did you agree with what I said? I really want to know. Like, comment below. I would really appreciate if you can comment, like, share, and subscribe. And thank you very much. Ooh, what an amazing show. If I may say so myself. Well, thank you for listening to the Ngozi Cadmus Show podcast. So, for all of you women of faith and all of you women who are listening week after week and resonate with what I'm talking about, feel lost, feel uncertain, know they're called for something greater, but they're currently stuck in what is comfortable. They're stuck in the familiar. And you honestly want to get out of that. You want to be all that God has created you to be. Sis, I got you covered. Yeah? I've got an amazing mentorship that I provide to women of faith like yourself to help them level up, essentially equip them with the skills that they need to fulfill their assignment on earth and to shift their mindset, have a complete metanoia, have a complete transformation. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, click the link on the website and follow the instructions, and I can't wait to see you in the community. So like, share, subscribe. That's YouTube. But for the podcast lovers, download it, share it, tweet it, review it, all of that good stuff, and I shall see you in the next podcast.